from the Dark Imp, helping parents reclaim family time by playing board games together. So today, my top 10 games of 2019. These are brand new games that just came out this year. I haven't played all the games that came out this year, they've been over 4,000. But of the ones that I've played, these are my top 10. At number 10, Turmoil, the expansion to Terraforming Mars. Okay, is this a bit of a cheat? It's an expansion rather than a full game. But Turmoil adds this sort of political aspect to Terraforming Mars, where you can have different people on different councils within the political arena, and that's going to change some of the effects that happen each turn. You remove points, terraforming points, from every player at the end of the turn, but you can access lots of different bonuses. And the trick is to make sure that the parties that you want to be ruling are ruling at the right times to access the bonuses. This is probably the most complex of all of the Terraforming Mars expansions. There's a lot going on, there's global events, there's all sorts of things that are happening, but it really adds a different sort of flavour to it. My number 10, Turmoil for Terraforming Mars. At number 9, Cooper Island. Cooper Island is a heavily strategic game, which at the moment I'm losing at very badly in our house. I don't seem to have managed to work out how to beat my son, but this is normal for me. So in Cooper Island, you have a peninsula of an island that is your sort of home. You've landed there at the same time as other people have landed on different parts of the island. And you're going to develop your part of the island by building up terrain and really building it up. So you're putting terrain tiles on top of each other, and then putting buildings on top of those. You have 2 ships that sail around the island, one in one way and one in the other way, and those are your victory point markers. When you get to sail your ships, which is what you're really trying to do in all your kinds of actions, you get to access bonuses as you cross different parts of the island. It's complicated, it's a mind bender, it's a really good strategic game, Cooper Island. At number 8, Mountaineers. It's the biggest game we own. It's the heaviest game we own. And in the marketing it says that this is the tallest board of any board game. This is a 3D mountain that you create with these huge triangular pieces. So the mountain ends up being this high on the table. You place your Mountaineer at the bottom of the mountain, and all the other players place their Mountaineers at the bottom of the mountain, and you are trying to scale the mountain, and you always leave markers behind to show the way you've gone. You access points in different ways, and different people will get points in different ways because you'll each have secret hidden objective cards that will allow you to score points. You're moving over different terrain types, you're going up to different elevations, and it's just a really fun thing to spin this mountain on the board, which is pretty well done, and to see all the Mountaineers scaling the mountain and the paths they're leaving behind them. That's Mountaineers. At number 7, Smoothies. Smoothies is a roll and write game. You are rolling 7 different coloured dice. Well, you're sort of dropping them. You're dropping them into the box and the box lid, which act as 2 different blenders for the different ingredients, which are the dice. And then as the active player, you're choosing one of the blenders, you're going to total all the dice, look at the colours of the dice, and mark off the total in each of those different rows according to the colours that are in that blender. You have to be careful not to always choose the blender with the most dice in, even though it will give you bonuses for doing so, because you're going to run out of turns pretty quickly. You do get to do something as the passive player as well. You can take one of the things from the passive, from the blender that the active player is not using. Your aim is to build up your score on your own board as you go through the game, and the player with the highest points wins. That's Smoothies. At number 6, Copenhagen. Copenhagen is a tile laying game, and you have your own colourful house, and on your turn you either take 2 cards from the centre, or you play any number of cards from your hand. When you play cards, you're going to play cards of an identical colour, and then you can swap those cards for a tile of that colour of the same number of squares as cards you've put down. So if you put 3 green cards down, you're going to take a tile that goes over 3 green squares. And then you take that tile and you put it on your house. You're trying to complete rows of the house, so stories, and you're trying to complete columns, so sort of vertical sections of the house. When you cover up certain bits or complete certain rows, you're going to access different kinds of bonuses, which help you take cards from different places, take more cards, and do all sorts of different things a little bit easier. First to 12 points wins. That's Copenhagen. At number 5, hats. In hats, you start with a number of cards. There are different colour suits, and all the cards have hats on them. So there's orange hats, and there's green hats, and there's all sorts of different hats. And on your turn, you're going to swap a hat from your hand with a hat that's on the table. And the table is important because it shows you what's going to score. So when you play a hat into a scoring position on the table, you're going to take the hat that was there and put it down on the table in front of you. That's going to score you points at the end of the game. But you never know how the table scoring is going to change, because people are constantly changing cards from their hands and updating the scoring. There are rules about what you can change with, same colour, a higher number, that sort of thing. But your hand is never, the scoring cards are always developed from cards you're taking off the table. So it's very interesting. It's based on the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, so it's a bit, unusual. It's a lovely game. That's hats. At number 4, Paris, or Paris, la cité de la lumière. De la lumière. This is a 2-player game, and it's quite nifty because you use the box. The board is built into the box, so you put the box on the table in front of you, and you put some of the pieces around the edge. It's very clever. It plays quite quickly. You're playing pavement tiles onto the board, and each tile is split into 4 sections. You have your own colour, your opponent's colour, and then a neutral colour, which in this case is purple. And it goes in 2 phases. So in phase 1, you're putting down different paving tiles on the board to create sections of your own colour on the board that will work in different ways. And you're also taking some special building tiles, which are all sort of polyomino shapes. They're different shaped buildings. And you've got to weigh up how many of those you take when you put down your pavement tiles. As soon as you put down your last pavement tile, you're not allowed to do anything else that phase. In phase 2, you're placing your buildings onto your colour pavement. And you're also selecting special actions from around the edge of the board. It's very clever. It's a game I keep wanting to play. We've played it a lot, even though we only got it at the end of October. This is Paris, or Paris, la cité de la lumière. At number 3, Trails of Tucana. Now, you've seen this in a couple of my videos already. It's great. It's a card flipping game where you're connecting different terrains on your map together to make pathways to get points as you connect high scoring things to different villages around the edge of the board. You're trying to connect village A to village A, which is in a different part of the board, before another player manages to do that, to access extra points. But you're really working on your own map and scoring at the end of the game. In fact, there's a round of scoring in the middle, so anything you manage to score by the end of the first time you go through the pack of cards is going to score twice, because you'll score it again at the end of the game. So there's incentive to do things quite quickly. That's Trails of Tucana. At number 2, Bosque. Bosque has these glorious components. There are little trees of 4 different colours, so it's a 2 to 4 player game. And it has a beautiful map with different kinds of terrain and a grid overlaid on top of it. It works in 4 different seasons: spring, summer, autumn, winter. Spring and autumn, they're playing seasons, seasons where you're making choices, where you're placing different things on the board. And summer and winter, where you're scoring those other 2 seasons. So in spring, you're placing trees. In summer, you're scoring trees according to their placement on the grid. In autumn, you are blowing leaves off the trees in the direction wherever the wind is blowing. And in winter, you're scoring regions associated with how many leaves of your colour are in that region. Very clever. My number 2, Bosque. At number 1, On the Underground, the London and Berlin maps. There's a giant double-sided map. One side is London, the other side is Berlin. It's got lots of different places throughout the city, and your aim is to create underground lines between these places. Each player's, depending on how many players you're playing with, each player is going to be given a certain number of different coloured lines to play. So I might be the red and yellow player. I might be putting down, in fact I don't think you can be the red and yellow. I don't think that's one of the combinations. I can't remember what the combinations are. It's something like that, red and yellow or green and blue or something like that. So if you're playing with 4 players, you're going to be 2 colours of line each, and if you're playing with 4 players, you're going to have 4 different lines. And there's one very important passenger that's moving around the map. On your turn, you're going to have 4 turns, 4 actions, and usually those actions are going to be that you're placing lines down on the map to extend your underground lines. You can also take branch tokens, which allow you to branch off from one of your lines in the middle of it, because normally you have to build at the end of a line. But then at the end of everybody's turn, at the end of each player's turn, the very important passenger moves. There are always 4 stations that he might move to, and he's always going to take the easiest route, the least walking and the least amount of changing. You get points, on the different maps you get points in different ways, but you always get points for if the passenger travels along your route. So there's some very strategic route placement, as well as always making sure you're trying to get the most bonuses you can across the map. That's On the Underground. My number 1 game for 2019.